A 500-pound barbell does not care how you feel about it. Today, I want to chat with you guys a little bit about something I've observed over the years by talking to numerous extremely good coaches. Things that I have learned and come to understand myself as someone with elite lifts in my 40s on several of my lifts. Someone who coaches at least 20 clients or more at any given time, and several of my guys that also have elite numbers. One of the things that I have found to be true, and this is something that we really need to do away with, this whole idea in the lifting world across the board, is that how you feel matters, right? That how you feel matters in any way. Because I can tell you right now, how you feel about a lift or how heavy you perceive something to be oftentimes doesn't impact how the weight moves. It doesn't impact whether you can lift it or not. It doesn't matter in regards to your training response. Okay, and that's a real big one. I am very much against this whole concept of rate of perceived exertion. It's nonsense. It's not based upon reality. In fact, if anything, a worst case is it's an excuse to train lazy. It's an excuse to not care about how much weight you're moving for what range of motion. It is an excuse to disregard math, science, what we know about the human adaptive response to training, and replace it with subjective feelings. Okay? And facts don't care about your feelings. They don't. Your muscle fibers, as far as they're recruited or not, or fatigued or not, don't care about your feelings. They don't care how you feel about it. And that's a big thing that we need to deal with, because muscle failure is not just muscle failure, right? If you can take a set to failure and still recruit very few upper threshold muscle fibers if you were too fatigued to do it. Right? If you were already too tired because you're out of shape or you took too short of a break between sets, that set may not even produce a training response. It might have been really hard. You might have hit muscle failure. But that doesn't matter, right? All that matters is math. What matters is the mathematical end of it, the physics end, and how your body responds in terms of training response to that physics. That's what matters. And this stuff is not ambiguous. It's not fleeting. As much as people would have you believe that it isn't. As far as the weight goes, when there's 500 pounds on a bar, it doesn't care how you feel. Either you can lift that weight or you cannot. All right? Either you are strong enough to move it or you can't. And it doesn't matter if you're having a bad day. And this is something, even though I'm not always a big fan of the Bulgarian method, and I ran it for 7 months straight on camera, that I've heard Coach John Brose say. He says, how you feel is a lie. And what he means is that if he has a lifter who comes in and squats 500 pounds every day, 6 or 7 days a week, because they max out every day, what they find is that if they have a bad night's sleep, or they're hungover, or they have a cold or anything else, and they feel terrible, and the warm-up feels awful. If that lifter comes in and they're ramping up and 400 feels like a 1-rep max, what he has universally found to be true by coaching a whole team of guys who do a max squat every day, every single day, they still lift 500 pounds no matter how they feel. And literally having a good day versus a bad day might be the difference between hitting their baseline 500 versus getting 510 or 515. Just a few pounds difference. That's the difference between being on top of your game versus having a bad day because you got a cold and only slept 3 hours. They still squat 500 pounds. Why? Because they're strong enough to squat 500 pounds or because they practice doing it? Okay? That's why. In other words, when we are using strength, our opinion of it doesn't matter. And you know what? And I'll take it so far as to say that people's opinion of how you define strength doesn't matter. Like how you feel about strength and strength standards is irrelevant. Those standards are what they are. We have good data showing strength standards, and how we measure strength is not ambiguous. And a lot of people who don't understand sports science, sports, strength training, anything else, come in and say silly stuff like, well, that's not how I define strength. The only way to measure strength is a 1 rep max. Yeah, actually it is. And how you feel about that fact doesn't change it. This is how we measure strength. Okay? And people misunderstand when someone like Louis Simmons says weight is measured in time, not pounds. They think that he's saying that you're producing more total force if you move a weight faster. That's not actually true. And that's not what he's saying, first of all, because they haven't read his works. They don't understand the way Louis Simmons thinks, because he's got a unique thought process, being the mad scientist, possibly greatest coach of all time, strength coach. No, that doesn't. It's not more force to move the weight faster. It's a higher rate of force production. But to move a 500-pound barbell 26 inches, the force produced is the same. The amount of force that you're exerting ends up being the same. And to move 505 pounds the same distance as the same squat will take you more force than to move 500. When he says it's measured in time, what he means is that there's only so many seconds in which you can produce maximum force, especially on certain lifts. And that if you're moving it way faster than what your maximum force exertion is, guess what? You've got good speed, but you need to put more weight on the bar. In other words, he's saying that it isn't a max. And he's also saying that if you can get a weight moving fast enough, there is no weight that you can't lift. If you can get it started fast enough. If you can get it started fast enough, you'll complete it. Because again, you've got it moving. You have inertia built from your initial push. It's just where you're recruiting the muscle fibers. You just have to keep it from decelerating. And if you get it moving quick enough, that will occur. That's what he means. But he's not making ambiguous statements. It's all math and physics. And the strength is the same way. Strength is not ambiguous. You are how strong you are. And just because you're bad at one lift doesn't mean you're not good at another. That's why for strength standards we have multiple lifts we look at. That's why strength sports look at multiple lifts. And how you feel about a movement doesn't change its ability to be a strength standard. And whether you think 1 rep maxes or how we measure strength still doesn't matter. It's irrelevant because your opinion's not important. We have standardized language and standardized measurements and ways that we measure these things. How you feel about it doesn't matter because your opinion doesn't mean shit. Just like your opinion of whether you can lift a weight or not doesn't mean shit. And a 500-pound barbell doesn't care about how you feel about it. Strength training, the way that our body responds to all these things is not subjective. And the sooner you get over that, and the sooner that you can accept that, the faster you can start making progress towards being an advanced or an elite lifter yourself. Okay? It's not voodoo. It's not black magic. It's not about your feelings. Alright guys, well that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.